Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today is the day. Metroid Dread is finally out and people are loving this game. And that just makes me so happy for the series. It deserves a big heavy hitter like this. For those unaware, Metroid Dread is the 5th mainline Metroid game that has been in development since 2005. Now of course there have been other Metroid games outside of the mainline titles like Metroid Prime and Metroid Pinball. Great titles in their own rights, but this is the mainline series we're talking about. I myself am not the biggest Metroid fan, and the fact that I only played a handful of games and I only fully completed Super Metroid and Other M. Yeah, that's gonna hurt my resume. Longtime fans, on the other hand, have been waiting for Metroid Dread for 15 years, and it's finally out. So was the wait worth it? Is Metroid Dread a worthy inclusion to this beloved series? Or is it a letdown compared to the past titles? Well, I guess we're just gonna have to find out. Dread starts off with our favorite female bounty hunter, Samus, en route to planet ZDR after getting intel on what appears to be an X-parasite roaming around the planet. And by intel, I mean they straight up sent a video to the Galactic Federation of the X-parasite just floating around.
What's he doing?
He's just standing there, menacingly!
Samus is immune to the X-parasite due to her experiences with them in the past games, so she is luckily, yet unfortunately, the only one that can go down to the planet and wipe out those pesky parasites. When she gets to the planet, however, she has an unfortunate encounter with a Chozo warrior named Ravenbeak, who decides to beat the ever-living crap out of Samus. Samus then wakes up with most of her abilities gone, and from then on, the main objective is to get to your ship and escape the planet. Of course, there are several twists and turns in the story that makes the plot more intriguing. And you know what? For a franchise that is somewhat light on story, I was genuinely excited to see how this was all gonna end. The graphics are pretty outstanding, with some noticeable smooth textures that sometimes don't look great, but as a whole it looks phenomenal. These shots look absolutely incredible, with a wide variety of locations and areas with different lighting through each. It's hard not to be impressed by the visuals. I love how dynamic the backgrounds can be, and how some background elements bleed into the 2D space. Not to mention that the frame rate is 60 frames per second, which is a huge improvement over Samus Returns on the 3DS. There are noticeable slowdowns that I personally experienced, but nothing too major, and it wasn't that often, so it's not a knock against the game. For the most part, it was a smooth 60 frames, and I love that. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention the top tier animation on display here. It is so freaking good. Animation goes a long way to make a game look and feel smooth, and Metroid Dread is no exception. It has some of the best animations in a Nintendo game that I have seen in quite some time. Samus moves so effortlessly, and she basically flies through the world. It's buttery smooth, and she even has unique animations in certain situations, which isn't the biggest deal in the world, but honestly one of the biggest improvements of the entire series. Samus as a character doesn't talk much, so they have to rely on her animations to show us how she's feeling in certain situations. Animating Samus well is key to really understanding what her character is all about. And from what I can tell, she is so confident when she fights enemies, and especially when she takes on different bosses. When she does a boss kill, she does it in the most flashy way, and she does it so effortlessly. However, we do luckily get to see her struggle, which makes her relatable to us as the audience. And I feel like a lot of games don't really do this well. They make the character either so overpowered that we don't get to see their struggle. But in Metroid Dread, we get to see both sides of the coin, and it really meshes well together. Honestly, it's a hard balance to strike, but I think Metroid Dread did an incredible job on Samus as a character. Yeah, sure, she's very confident, but there are some times where she slips up and you can see her struggling just to survive, and it's honestly incredible. And it's all thanks to the animations. Honestly, Samus as a character is incredible, and I'm so glad of what they did with her here. Overall, the animation, like I said, is incredible, and accompanied with great art direction, allows the game to both look pretty and smooth, which is a great combination. I wonder what kind of gameplay Metroid Dread is going to have. Oh, right. So yeah, Metroid Dread is in fact a Metroidvania, with the emphasis on Metroid, because for those who didn't know, the original Metroid back in 1986 was the origin of this genre, with Castlevania's Symphony of the Night carrying the torch in 1997, therefore giving birth to this timeless genre that we know of today. Like other Metroidvanias, you get dropped into an area with an empty map just waiting to be filled by your exploration. There's not exactly a set path, but the game does a clever job at nudging you towards the right way without holding your hand. It does a fantastic job at making you feel smart for discovering something, and rewards you for going off the beaten path. Of course, there will be areas you can't access yet with the limited moves or abilities you are given at the beginning of the game, but just you wait, because you will be getting upgrades at a pretty consistent pace, which, speaking of, Metroid Dread's pacing is excellent. Like I said, you are consistently finding upgrades, and regions don't often overstay their welcome. You are always discovering new locations, which is a huge deal, and it can make or break a game like this. Luckily for Metroid Dread, it excels in this aspect. I personally only got really lost one time, but once I figured out what to do, I was fine. If you do happen to get lost, just remember that you should always use newly founded upgrades or abilities in the environment. If there's a locked door that you couldn't access before and you just got a new upgrade for it, try opening that door or breaking that block or something. Use that ability on what you can, and the map will actually show you little icons that are mapped to different abilities, which is really cool and really neat and will really help you progress if you are having trouble and getting lost. So just always keep that in the back of your mind. There's also a good variety of locations in the game, but I'm only showing the first two for spoiler reasons. So don't worry, there's much more to see than what I'm showing off, which also is the case for the abilities, which, holy crap, honestly some of the best abilities in the entire series. And it truly feels like an evolution of Metroid with some of these new key abilities. It makes me wish that they designed the Samus in Smash like the one in Dread, because holy crap, these are two different characters. The way they map the abilities on the controller is also more user-friendly compared to previous titles. The counter ability also makes a return from Samus Returns, and it has been improved significantly. Now you can actually move and counter at the same time, instead of just stopping every time and waiting for the sparkle like in the previous game. I mean, you're still waiting for the sparkle, just now you can actually move and counter, which is really nice. This makes the flow of combat much better feeling. It's not as stiff anymore, which kind of goes with the whole game, to be honest. Metroid Dread feels incredible to play. Samus moves so effortlessly, and the game thankfully runs at a crisp 60 frames, which I already said, but I just can't get enough of it. Honestly, the entire game just feels so good to play through that I want to go through it all over again. It really is that good. Of course, we can't forget about the main threat in the game, the Emmys. Oh my, the Emmys. Emmys are basically robots created by the Galactic Federation sent to planet ZDR. But oh no, someone hacked them, turning them into killer robots that stab you on impact. Luckily, they can only occupy certain zones, so they are contained in some way, which is nice, but oh man, once you step foot in that door, you are in the realm of the Emmys. There's a good handful of Emmys, one for each zone, so there's not multiple chasing after you, which is also really good, but 1 enough is all I can handle for sure, because oh man, these things will chase you down. The Emmys are always looking for you, and they can hear you from far away. They have secret passageways only they can use. And if an Emmy catches you, you have a tiny chance of escaping its clutches. Remember that counterattack from before? You can actually use it during this sequence, but the timing of the counter is reduced significantly, so you have to get it just right. Otherwise, you're donezo. It's kinda haunting watching Samus struggling to break free just to be stabbed through her armor. Like, what the heck, Nintendo? Why are you having me watch this? Honestly, the Emmys add a nice tension to the game that is sorely needed, especially for a game called Metroid Dread. I think the game does a great job at living up to that name, because these guys can be nightmares. Even when you think you're in the clear, you're not. It's great stuff. And the Emmy AI is pretty intelligent and are luckily unpredictable at times, which really fits their, not character, but their AI, I guess. But because they are so unpredictable, it makes the tension that much stronger, because you don't know what they're gonna do or where they're gonna go. The Emmys can be defeated with a temporary upgrade to your arm cannon, but you have to be completely still to use the arm cannon, and it takes a while to charge, so good luck doing that while evil robot is chasing after you. The Emmys aren't the only big baddies that are difficult to beat, because the other boss battles are really tough, with specific patterns that you have to learn in order to defeat them. Some took me a long time to figure out, but it's one of those boss fights where you can overcome it with practice, but once you do, it's so satisfying. Don't get too discouraged if you can't beat a boss right away. After a couple tries, I'm sure you'll be able to defeat it. It can be really hard. These bosses are no joke, but they can be beaten, and each move of theirs can be dodged in some way. You just have to figure it out. The music is great, with classic Metroid motifs here and there, mostly in certain cutscenes. The music is good, but nothing really stood out to me personally, which doesn't make it bad at all, don't get me wrong. I honestly just think it seeps in the background while the incredible sound design kicks in. Metroid Dread is great at setting the atmosphere of wherever Samus happens to be. The best example of this is when Samus wanders into an Emmy zone. The music turns into this disturbingly quiet ambient tune, which just makes the overall experience of being in an Emmy den much more unsettling. You can even hear them scurrying around, which is so creepy, and it's an excellent way to make the player's heart beat out of their chest. Honestly, I didn't expect the sound design to sound this good, but I'm so happy that it is, because it definitely adds to the experience. Metroid Dread is by far my favorite Metroid game up to this point. Granted, I haven't played all the games, and I would love to eventually, but at the time of this recording, this is my favorite. I've played most of the Prime games. Then again, I don't remember a lot of the Prime games. I played at a very early age. And I've recently beaten Super Metroid, and I've been playing Samus Returns, although I haven't played it since Metroid Dread, because this is a better game. But yeah, this is my favorite Metroid game. It just feels so good to play, and honestly, I want to go back and play it again. I haven't yet, because I've been working on, well, this and other stuff, and Kingdom Hearts, but that's another story for another time. But this is it. This is my favorite Metroid game, and it is really that good. If you're a longtime fan, you already have it probably. It has frenetic gameplay with a ton packed into it that makes it easily worth $60. If you aren't a Metroid fan, I would still recommend Metroid Dread. If you aren't a Metroid fan, and this could be potentially your first one, I would still recommend this. They go over the story up until that point in the prologue, so you're not going to be missing too much. There are some minor details here and there that you'll miss if you're not, familiar with the series beforehand. But overall, you'll get the gist of it, and it's still an enjoyable game. Honestly, this has me really excited for the series as a whole, and I hope Nintendo re-releases more Metroid games on the Switch, especially the GBA games, because those are getting pretty pricey now. And plus playing Metroid Fusion or Zero Mission on the Switch would just be great. It would just be so great. But as for Dread, it has earned a 10 out of 10 with a chef's kiss to boot. Because this is an incredible game that is absolutely worth the attention and hype that it has gotten. One of the best Metroidvania games I have ever played. I'm not sure if it's better than Hollow Knight, that's for time to tell. But it's definitely up there. The pacing, I'm telling you, the pacing is so good. And it really makes the game flow so seamlessly. There are some things I had some problems with, like with the fast travel system. It's color-coded, and I hear that it becomes not so much color-coded once you find all the fast travel points. I don't know if that's true or not, that's just what I've heard. But, you know, throughout the game you're doing these color-coded fast travels, and it's definitely not my favorite way of traversal. There's probably a reason for it, but I did not like that part. I did not like fast traveling. So going through the fast travel points and backtracking are essentially low points. But, I mean, that's with every Metroidvania. But the fast travel system, I wish it was different. I wish it was more like Hollow Knights or other games like it. But anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. God bless.